The cold forest spread across the horizon like an endless sea of black trees. A small human village rested at its edge, its wooden houses pressed close together as if they could shield one another from the dangers that lived beyond the shadows. For many years, the people of this colony had lived under fear. They were not the masters of this land. The true rulers were the alien wolves, towering beasts with sharp claws, golden eyes, and minds sharper than any blade. The wolves demanded tribute from the villagers every season. Sometimes it was food, sometimes it was tools. But every few years they demanded something more dreadful. They asked for a human. On this night the demand returned. The leader of the wolves came down from the forest hills, his fur shining under the pale moonlight. The villagers gathered in the central square, their hearts heavy. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers held their tools, though they dared not fight. The leader of the wolves spoke in a voice that echoed like thunder. He said that the time of tribute had come again. This season the wolves would not take grain or livestock. They would take a girl. Fear spread through the crowd like fire. No one spoke at first. Then whispers began, soft and trembling. Who would be chosen? The wolves demanded that the villagers decide by sunrise. If they failed, the entire village would suffer. Among the villagers stood Mira, a young woman with calm eyes and quiet strength. She had lived her life simply, helping her parents with the harvest, gathering herbs in the forest, and caring for the younger children of the village. She never imagined she would be noticed on such a night. But when the discussion grew louder and the fear turned into desperate arguments, Mira's name was spoken. Some said she had no husband and no children to leave behind. Others said she was strong enough to face the wolves with dignity. Mira's parents cried out, begging the elders to choose another. Yet the elders feared the wolves more than they feared their own guilt. When dawn touched the sky, the decision was made. Mira was chosen. She was to be the offering. Her father tried to argue, but soldiers of the village held him back. Her mother clung to her, sobbing into her shoulder, whispering apologies. Mira felt her own tears, but she did not cry out. She knew that fighting would only bring more punishment. She held her mother's hand gently and promised that she would be brave. The villagers dressed her in a plain white cloth, as was the custom for those given to the wolves. It was meant to show surrender. The people formed a silent line and walked her to the forest's edge. The trees loomed tall, their black branches twisting against the morning light. Mira's heart pounded as she stepped onto the cold soil of the forest path. Behind her, the village faded into silence. Ahead of her, the shadows waited. The wolves were already there. Their golden eyes glowed from the darkness, and their low growls filled the air. Mira stopped in the clearing, her hands shaking, her body tense. She expected to be attacked at once. She expected the claws, the teeth, the pain. Yet nothing came. The wolves circled her slowly, sniffing the air, whispering to one another in a strange tongue that humans could not understand. As they moved around her, Mira felt something strange. A vibration in her mind, soft at first, then stronger. It was not the voice of the wolves. It was something far away, yet it spoke inside her head as if it knew her soul. "Mira," the voice said, calm and powerful, "do not fear them. I am with you." Her eyes widened. She looked around but saw only the wolves. None of them had spoken. The voice returned, warmer this time, filled with authority. "I am the queen, the true ruler of this world and the skies above. I have watched you. When the moment comes, you must listen to me. You must come to my chambers." Mira's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to speak, but no sound left her lips. The wolves growled louder, their argument turning fierce. One of them lunged close, his teeth snapping just inches from her arm, but he did not bite. Another snarled at him, forcing him back. They were fighting over her, undecided whether to kill her or keep her. But Mira was no longer trapped only in the forest. She saw a vision forming in her mind, a throne of silver light, towers that pierced the clouds, soldiers of shining armor standing in rows. She saw the queen herself, tall and radiant, with eyes that burned brighter than the stars. The queen lifted a hand toward her, and Mira felt a pull deep inside her chest. The wolves continued to circle, but Mira's fear began to fade. She was not alone anymore. She felt a path opening before her, though she did not yet understand it. The night deepened once more, and the wolves raised their heads to the moon. Mira stood silently, waiting, her mind echoing with the queen's whisper. The bargain of the villagers had brought her here to die, yet destiny seemed to have chosen something far greater for her. The wolves circled Mira with heavy steps, their golden eyes burning like fire in the shadows. Their growls rose and fell deep and sharp as they argued in their strange language. Mira's heart beat so fast she could feel it in her throat. She stood still, trying not to tremble, though fear pressed against her chest like iron chains. Then the voice returned inside her mind. Calm, steady, and filled with power, it echoed in her thoughts. Mira, you must leave this place. You are not theirs. You are mine. Come to my chambers. Her breath caught. She wanted to turn her head and search for the one who spoke. But there was no figure, no form, only the whisper. She closed her eyes, and in the darkness of her mind she saw it again. Towers of silver light rising into the sky. A throne that gleamed brighter than the moon. Soldiers in armor, their faces hidden, their spears raised high, and on the throne sat a tall figure, her crown sharp as crystal, her gaze commanding. The alien queen looked directly at her. Mira shivered, but not from fear. There was something about that voice, something that made her feel protected even as danger surrounded her. The wolves drew closer. One stepped forward, lowering his snout to sniff at her shoulder. His breath was hot, his fangs sharp in the moonlight. Mira almost cried out, but then she saw it. A light flickering in the trees behind him. Small at first, like the glow of a firefly, then brighter, forming a thin trail deep into the forest. The queen's voice whispered again. Go. Follow the lights. I will guide you. Mira's legs shook, but she forced herself to move. The wolves snapped their jaws as she stepped back, and one of them lunged toward her. At that very moment, the light grew stronger, bursting into a sharp flash. The wolf stumbled, his eyes blinded. Mira took her chance and ran. The forest closed around her, its branches clawing at her arms and legs. Her bare feet struck the cold earth, stones and roots cutting at her skin, but she did not stop. The trail of lights darted ahead like glowing sparks, weaving through the trees as though they were alive. She chased them, heart pounding, every breath sharp in her chest. Behind her, the wolves roared in anger, their claws tearing the ground as they gave chase. Mira did not look back. She ran until her lungs burned, until her legs screamed for rest. The lights carried her forward, turning when she might have lost her way, guiding her past hidden pits and thorn walls. Each time she thought she would fall, the queen's voice touched her mind, soft but commanding. Do not stop. I am here. You are under my protection. For the first time, Mira felt hope in a place of fear. Far away in the village, the people gathered in silence. Hours had passed since Mira had been taken into the forest. The wolves had not returned. The elders feared the beasts would soon storm down upon them in rage. Mothers clutched their children. Fathers stood with tools in their hands, though none believed they could fight. The village leader stared toward the dark hills, wondering what fate their choice had brought upon them. The wolves, meanwhile, searched in fury. They had lost their prize. Their howls shook the trees as they spread through the forest, their golden eyes sweeping the shadows. They swore punishment upon the humans for letting their offering escape, but Mira kept running. The lights carried her to a stream, its water glowing faintly under the starlight. She waded through, her legs trembling, her white cloth heavy with water. When she reached the other side, she nearly collapsed, but the whisper filled her again. Just a little farther. The path is opening. Trust me. She raised her head and saw beyond the trees a faint shimmer in the distance, as if the air itself was breaking apart. It glowed with colors she had never seen before, shifting and bending like a curtain of glass. She dragged her body forward, her strength nearly gone, but her spirit burning with a new fire. Behind her, the wolves drew near. She could hear their claws striking stones, their growls echoing. One howled so close that her heart froze, but she refused to stop. She pushed forward until she touched the glowing curtain. The light wrapped around her, warm and calm. She felt her body lifted, her pain eased, her fear fading. The sound of the wolves dimmed. The trees vanished. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the forest. She stood on a high pathway of shining stone, the air clear and bright, though no sun hung above. Far ahead rose the towers she had seen in her visions, tall, silver, crowned with light, stretching into a sky of endless blue. She felt her knees weaken, not from exhaustion now, but from awe. And there, at the heart of the shining city, she heard the whisper again, no longer faint but strong and clear. Welcome, Mira, you are safe now. The wolves cannot reach you here. Come to me, for your true journey begins. Her fear was gone. Only wonder filled her heart as she stepped forward, guided by the call of the alien queen. Mira stepped carefully along the shining pathway, her bare feet touching stone that felt smooth and warm as if it had been touched by the sun. She had no idea where she was, but she knew she was no longer on the same land where her village stood. The air was fresh, filled with a faint hum that seemed to come from the city itself. Towers of silver rose high above her, their tips glowing like stars. Great bridges stretched between them, carrying streams of light that flowed like rivers in the sky. She walked slowly, trying to take in everything, though her heart was still beating fast from her escape. All around her were tall gates and moving platforms of crystal, each shining with colors she could not name. The city seemed alive, humming and breathing as if it welcomed her. She remembered the queen's words. This was not a dream. She had been brought here for a reason. Two figures appeared on the path ahead. They were taller than any human, dressed in silver armor that gleamed under the light. Their helmets covered their faces, and in their hands they carried long staffs that glowed at the tips. Mira froze, uncertain if they were friend or enemy. The guards raised their staffs, but instead of threatening her, they bowed slightly. "You have been expected," one of them said, his voice deep but calm. "The queen has chosen you. Come with us." Mira hesitated, but then nodded. She followed as the guards led her through tall arches and wide halls that glowed with soft blue light. Strange symbols ran across the walls, shifting like water, and each one gave off a faint warmth. Other beings passed them in the halls, tall and graceful with pale skin that seemed almost translucent. Some had markings across their faces like shining tattoos. Others carried scrolls or glowing devices. They looked at Mira with quiet curiosity but did not speak. At last they reached a grand chamber. The ceiling rose so high that Mira could barely see its top. At the center stood a throne of silver and crystal, glowing with steady light, and upon it sat the alien queen. She was taller than any human, her presence so strong that Mira felt her knees weaken. A crown of crystal rested upon her head, and her robes flowed like liquid metal. Her eyes shone brighter than the towers themselves, and when she looked at Mira, it felt as if every secret of her heart was known. The guard stepped aside. Mira stood alone before the throne. She tried to bow, unsure of what was expected, but the queen's voice filled the chamber, soft yet commanding. "Rise, Mira. You have no need to bow. You were brought here not as a servant, but as a guest." Mira lifted her head. "Why me?" she asked, her voice trembling. "I am only a villager. I have nothing to give. Why did you save me from the wolves?" The queen's gaze softened. "You are more than you believe. I have watched humanity since it came to this world. You are small in number, fragile in body. Yet there is a fire within you that no other race carries. The wolves thought you were theirs to take, but I knew you were meant for more." Mira tried to understand her words. "But I am ordinary. I only worked in the fields. I have no strength like the wolves, no knowledge like your people." The queen rose from her throne. The floor itself seemed to glow brighter as she stepped closer. "It is not strength of claw or power of knowledge that makes humanity special. It is the courage to face fear. When you were chosen for sacrifice, you did not run. You accepted your fate with dignity. That is why I called you. That is why you stand here now." Mira lowered her eyes, unsure how to answer. The queen lifted her chin gently with a single glowing finger. "The wolves are not rulers. Long ago they were part of this empire, soldiers bound by law, but they turned against their oath and fled to the forests, seeking their own dominion. They use fear to hold power over your people. Their reign is false." Mira's heart stirred at these words. She remembered the terror of the villagers, the cries of her parents, the helpless silence of the children. "Then why do you not stop them?" she asked. The queen's eyes dimmed slightly. "The laws of the empire forbid me from striking them without cause. They are rebels, but they are not foolish. They hide behind old pacts. If I send my armies without reason, the balance of many worlds may shatter. Yet with you, Mira, there is hope. You are the bridge between my throne and your people. Through you, we may bring an end to their false rule." Mira felt her chest tighten. "You want me to fight them?" "I want you to lead," the queen answered. "Not with sword or claw, but with courage. You will return to your people and show them that they are not prey. You will stand as my voice among them, and when the wolves come, as they surely will, you will not face them alone. My soldiers will stand beside you." The chamber was silent after her words. Mira felt the weight of her task pressing down, heavier than the night she was offered to the wolves. She thought of her parents, of the villagers who had sent her away, of the children who still feared the growls from the hills. Could she truly be the one to protect them? The queen touched her hand. A warm light spread through Mira's skin, filling her body with calm strength. "You are not alone," the queen whispered. "This power will be with you. Not to destroy, but to defend. Trust in it. Trust in yourself." Mira looked down at her hand, A faint glow lingered there, soft but steady. She clenched her fist, and for the first time she felt not fear, but a sense of purpose. The queen stepped back and returned to her throne. Rest now, Mira. Soon you will return to your world. Soon the wolves will test you. And soon, humanity will learn to rise. Mira bowed her head, not from fear but from respect. The path ahead was filled with shadows, but she no longer felt helpless. She was chosen, not as a sacrifice, but as a bridge between her people and the empire of the stars. That night she lay in a chamber prepared for her, the walls glowing faintly like starlight. She thought of her village, her parents, and the frightened faces she had left behind. Sleep came slowly, but when it did, it carried no nightmares. Instead, she dreamed of silver towers, of voices calling her name, and of a future where her people no longer trembled before the wolves. The morning sun rose over the human village, but its light brought no comfort. The people stood in silence, their faces pale with dread. The wolves had not returned with Mira, and they knew what that meant. Soon the beast would come in fury, and the punishment would fall on all of them. Children hid behind their mothers. Elders muttered prayers, and men sharpened tools they knew would never stand against claws and fangs. High above, in the shining city of the queen, Mira prepared to return. She stood before a mirror of crystal, dressed not in the plain white cloth of sacrifice but in robes of soft silver, a gift from the queen. Her hands glowed faintly with the power she had been given, though she did not yet fully understand it. Fear lingered in her chest, but she remembered the queen's words. She was not alone. The queen's soldiers waited to escort her, tall and silent, their armor gleaming. The queen herself appeared one last time before Mira's departure. Her gaze was steady, her voice firm. Mira, you will go back to your people. Tell them that the wolves' rule is ending. When the beasts come, you must stand before them. Do not flee. My soldiers will reveal themselves when the time is right. But it is your courage that must guide your people. Without it, they will never rise. Mira bowed her head, her heart heavy yet strong. I will do as you ask. I will not let fear break me. The queen touched Mira's forehead with a glowing hand. Then go, child of earth. Show them that humanity is not prey. In the blink of an eye, Mira was returned to the edge of her village. Gasps rose from the people as they saw her, alive and dressed in shining robes. Her parents rushed forward, tears streaming down their faces. They touched her arms and face as if to be sure she was real. The others gathered around, staring in shock. How did you survive? One man whispered. Did the wolves spare you? Asked another, though his voice shook with disbelief. Mira raised her hands, showing the faint glow. I was not taken by the wolves. I was called by the queen. She is the true ruler of this world, and she has chosen to protect us. But we must be brave. The wolves will come soon. We must not bow to them again. The villagers murmured in fear. Some shook their heads. We cannot fight them, an elder said. They are stronger than us. If we resist, they will destroy us. Mira's voice rose, steady and firm.
If we bow, they will take more from us again and again.
They have ruled through fear for too long. The queen has given me her strength, and her soldiers will stand with us. We are not alone anymore, but you must trust me. You must stand with me. Her words lit a spark, but doubt still clouded many faces. Then a howl broke the air. Deep and furious, it rolled across the hills and into the village square. The people froze. From the forest edge, golden eyes appeared, dozens of them, glowing like fire in the shadows. The wolves were coming. The ground shook under their steps as they emerged. Towering beasts with black fur and sharp claws marched toward the village. At their front was the leader, his fangs bared, his eyes burning with rage. He raised his voice deep as thunder. You dared to cheat us. You let our offering escape. For this insult, we will tear your village apart. The people fell to their knees in terror. But Mira stepped forward. She stood tall, her silver robes catching the sunlight, her glowing hands raised. Her voice rang out clear. I was not yours to take. I belong to no wolf. I was chosen by the queen, and through her I stand for my people. We are not your prey, the wolves growled, some laughing darkly. The leader snarled. Bold words for a fragile human. Do you think light in your hands will save you? Mira's heart pounded, but she held her ground. It is not light alone that will save us. It is courage. And with courage we are not weak. The wolves roared and charged. The villagers cried out, many scattering in fear. But in that moment the air above the village shimmered. Silver figures descended, the queen's soldiers, their armor glowing as they struck the ground with spears of light. The wolves halted, shocked by their sudden arrival. A great battle began. Wolves lunged with claws and teeth. But the soldiers met them with shields that glowed like crystal and weapons that cut through fur and fang. The sound of steel and growls filled the air. Mira did not hide. She moved among her people, lifting her hands. The glow spread from her palms, forming barriers of light that shielded children from lunging wolves. When one beast broke through and rushed toward her, Mira felt the power of the queen flow through her veins. She raised her hand and a wave of force burst forth, striking the wolf back into the dust. The villagers watched in awe. Their fear slowly turned into something stronger. One man picked up a stone and hurled it at a wolf. Another raised his farming tool and struck. Soon, many joined the fight, standing beside the soldiers, no longer cowering. The wolves realized the humans were no longer broken prey. The leader roared in fury, leaping toward Mira. His claws slashed down, but she stood firm, the glow in her hands shining brighter than ever. She pushed forward, and a shield of light wrapped around her. The wolf struck it, and the force threw him back. The soldiers pressed forward, their spears driving into the ground, creating a wall of blinding light. The wolves staggered, their howls echoing as they turned and fled into the forest. Their leader growled one last threat, then vanished into the shadows with the others. Silence fell. The villagers stood in shock, staring at Mira and the soldiers who now stood guard among them. For the first time in their lives, they had seen the wolves retreat. For the first time, they had not bowed in fear. Mira lowered her glowing hands, her body trembling from the effort. Her parents rushed to her, holding her tightly, pride and relief shining in their eyes. The villagers gathered around, no longer looking at her with doubt but with respect. She looked to the sky, knowing the queen was watching. The battle was over, but the storm had only just begun. The wolves would return stronger and angrier. Yet Mira no longer feared them. She had seen her people stand. She had seen courage rise. And with the queen's promise beside her, she knew the future of humanity would never be the same. The battle left the village quiet. Smoke rose from broken huts and claw marks cut across the wooden walls, but the people were alive. For the first time in many seasons, they had driven the wolves back. Children peeked out from hiding, and men and women walked the square with wonder in their eyes. Some wept, some laughed nervously, but all of them looked to Mira. She stood in the center, her silver robes torn and stained with dirt, her glowing hands dimming now that the fight was over. Her chest rose and fell with exhaustion, but her eyes were steady. The villagers gathered close, their fear replaced with something new. Respect. One elder stepped forward, his voice trembling. "We thought you were gone forever, Mira. We thought you would be lost to the wolves. But you returned with light. You saved us." Mira shook her head. "I did not do this alone. The queen's soldiers stood with us. But more than that, you stood with me. You found courage in yourselves. That is what saved us." Her words stirred the crowd. For the first time, the villagers spoke of hope, of freedom from fear. Parents lifted their children high, telling them to remember this day. Men gripped one another's shoulders with pride. Women smiled through tears, believing that the age of terror might finally end. As the people celebrated, the queen's soldiers stood watch. Their tall silver forms glowed faintly as they guarded the village edge. One of them approached Mira and bowed. "The queen calls for you. She asks that you come to her chambers." Mira's parents clung to her hands, afraid to let her go again. But Mira smiled at them softly. "This is not a farewell. This is a step forward. I will see you again." Her mother pressed a kiss to her forehead, and her father's eyes shone with pride. Then Mira followed the soldier, her steps light though her body was weary. The sky shimmered, and once again she was lifted into the hidden realm. The village fell away, and the shining city of towers and bridges stretched before her. The hum of energy filled her ears, and her heart stirred with awe. This place no longer frightened her. It felt like a home she had always known but never seen. She was led through wide halls to the great throne room. The alien queen sat upon her silver seat, her crown glowing with calm power. She rose as Mira entered, her eyes filled with approval. "You have done well," the queen said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "The wolves have been driven back. More than that, your people have seen their own strength. This was the first step." Mira bowed her head. "It was your power that guided me." The queen shook her head gently. "It was your courage. Power without courage is nothing. You stood when all others fell. You spoke when all others trembled. That is why I chose you." Mira felt warmth in her chest. "What happens now? The wolves will return. They will not forget this defeat." The queen's gaze turned thoughtful. "They will return, yes. But the balance has shifted. They will no longer see your people as helpless prey, and with time humanity will learn to stand not only with my soldiers but on its own. Mira looked around the chamber, its walls glowing with silver patterns. And what of me? Where is my place in this? The queen stepped down from her throne and came close. She placed a hand on Mira's shoulder. Your place is here and there. You will walk between two worlds. To your people you will be their voice, their shield, their hope. To me you will be my ambassador. Through you, humanity will take its first steps into the empire of the stars. Mira's heart raced. She thought of her small village, of fields and forests, of faces that had always looked down in fear. Could she truly stand as their voice in a realm of towers and light? Yet she remembered the moment she raised her hand against the wolves, the moment her people rose with her. She realized the answer was already within her. I will do it, she said firmly. I will carry their voice. I will not let fear rule us again. The queen smiled, her eyes glowing brighter. Then come to my chambers. From this day forward you are no longer only Mira of the village. You are Mira of the empire, chosen of humanity. She guided Mira into a smaller hall behind the throne, a place filled with flowing light and quiet strength. The air shimmered with power and strange symbols floated around them like stars. The queen lifted her hand and the symbols gathered around Mira, wrapping her in warmth. This chamber is where my chosen are blessed, the queen said. Here you will be bound not by chains but by purpose. The power I gave you will grow, shaped by your heart. Use it to guide, to protect, and to inspire. Mira felt the light sink into her skin, filling her veins with energy. It did not burn. It comforted her as though every wound and scar she carried had been healed. She felt taller, stronger, though her body had not changed. Her spirit had. When the glow faded, the queen looked at her with pride. It is done. You are ready. Mira bowed deeply, not out of fear but out of respect. Thank you. For saving me. For saving us all. The queen touched her hand. One day it will not be I who saves you. It will be you who saves many. Remember this. Mira left the chamber with new strength in her step. She looked out across the shining city, its towers rising into the endless sky. Somewhere far below her village waited. No longer a place of fear, but a seed of hope. She knew the wolves would return and many battles lay ahead. But she was no longer a sacrifice. She was a leader. And though the path before her was uncertain, Mira was ready to walk it. With courage in her heart and the queen's blessing in her soul, she would carry humanity forward, from the shadows of the forest to the light of the stars.